Hi there guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Anna Sophia if you're new here, and I post home decor and DIY content every Sunday, and this Sunday is no exception. I'm gonna share with you guys 3 thrift flips that I worked on when I was like deep into my pregnancy, like 9 months pregnant. So I thought these would be perfect to share with you guys because if I can do these 9 months pregnant, I guarantee you anybody could do these. And also don't forget to hit the subscribe button because I post home decor and DIY content every Sunday. And then if you ring that bell, it'll actually like send you a notification that I've posted a new video, which is really cool. So those are just our little housekeeping things. Now the first DIY, I love it so much that I actually posted it in this frame, so something might look really familiar to the thumbnail. With that being said, let's go ahead and jump into our first project. For the first thrift flip, I found this lamp for, it was originally $15.99, but make sure you check out your local Goodwills because on certain days, certain colors are 50% off. So this was actually only like $8, so not too bad for a big lamp like this one. And I loved the ridging on it, and I knew exactly what I wanted to do with it, which is like everyone's doing this hack right now to a thrifted lamp, I swear. But it does turn out so cool in the end, and it gives a really nice texture and effect. So the first thing that I'm doing is I'm just spray painting the whole base of it. I've taped up anything that I don't want to be spray painted, like the electrical and all that, and the wire at the bottom. So I'm just using some matte black spray paint by Rust-Oleum, and I just gave it like 2 pretty solid coats. And then you guys might have seen when I did this vase makeover and a decorate for free using nutmeg and cinnamon. So I'm doing a similar thing to this lamp that I did with that piece, but the thing with that piece that was so time consuming was there wasn't already any natural texture happening. So it's really hard to get that color from the cinnamon and the nutmeg to stay. So with this project, it was actually very easy because there was so much already happening on that vase that everything turned out so beautiful in the end. So for me personally, I've seen so many people who use mud or dirt, really dry dirt, instead of using spices. But for me, I would rather smell, I guess, spices than mud, but whatever works for you, make sure you just do that. But the mud technique, I think it works a little bit better in terms of just working a little bit faster. So with this, you have to do kind of like a couple coats, and then you want to apply some matte clear spray paint to make sure that every layer that you're applying is adhering to your surface. I was gonna go the extra mile and make some little clay handles as well, but when I was finished with the actual just like spicing process, I really love how it turned out, and I don't feel like it needs it. And this is how our thrifted lamp makeover turned out. Okay, so for the second thrift flip, I think you guys can all level with me on this one. This was not even something that I thrifted. This is something I just found on the side of the road, and it looks like I found it on the side of the road, right? Like it looks pretty beat up. But I've been inspired by 2 things, and it's one of them is a milking stool, which is just really like an aged kind of vintage stool. And then the other thing is boucle fabric. Now, boucle fabric is extremely expensive. So I don't know if you guys remember, but I recently went thrifting and I found this skirt that reminded me so much of that fabric, but it was only $3.50 for the skirt. So when I saw the skirt, I was like, I knew I had to reupholster this stool and kind of combine the 2 things that I've been really trying to achieve. So obviously the reupholster job was really unusual because normally no matter how bad the reupholstering job is, it's usually done with staples, and this had like nails going sideways, nails going like, it was just all over the place. So normally you would just take just like a flathead screwdriver and just pop those staples right out, but the nails were quite long. So I'm actually surprised it didn't puncture through the fabric on the top. But after I was able to remove all of those nails, I was able to see kind of what was covered underneath, which was actually way nicer than what they covered it with, but you know, to each their own. So I've gotten a few questions from you guys on how I clean my thrifted items. And so for example, an item like this, I haven't yet cleaned it because I knew I was going to be removing that top piece. If you know you're going to reupholster something, I wouldn't even really necessarily bother cleaning it, or, you know, like I don't even know how you would clean it if you weren't planning on just reupholstering it. So what was nice was what was underneath was actually plastic. So I could just wipe it down with some soap and antibacterial spray to just get rid of anything that was undesired in my home. And then, you know, you just want to let it dry in extreme heat very well. It's been nice here in Maryland. It's been nice and sunny. So after I was able to do that, I just stuck it out in the sun for a while just to make sure we were okay. So after that was all pretty well dry, like I mentioned earlier, I've been really into that boucle kind of reupholstered look that everybody's also really into right now, but I'm definitely not into the price point. So this seemed like a better solution for me. You can obviously go to the fabric store and buy like a yard or whatever of boucle fabric. It's just gonna be a lot more money. So all I'm doing now is I'm just kind of measuring around this seat portion of the stool and just making sure I have enough slack. And luckily I had just enough. So after I'm able to get one corner down pretty well, I like to get just kind of like, I call them like securement staples, and it's just to really secure the fabric in place for the most part, and then you can kind of fine tune and go in between all of those staples, because you want to keep flipping it around, making sure what you're going to see every day is looking like what you had in mind. Another tip I have is make sure you keep a hammer handy just in case your staples are kind of meeting some resistance with whatever you're upholstering, and you can just hammer them in there, and then that way everything is really nice and secure. And now that we're done with the cushion part of this project, it's just time now to work on the stool. And as I mentioned earlier, I've been really loving those like vintage milking stools. And in order to get that kind of weathered look that I was really trying to achieve, I just took some coarse grit sandpaper over the entire thing just one time. And for the feet of this stool, I used a product called Flitz where you can kind of restore brass, and it worked out incredibly well. So I will definitely link it in my description if you are trying to restore brass. And just a refresher of how the stool used to look and how it looks now. For our third thrift flip, I love to DIY, you guys know this, but one thing I don't like to DIY, but I also don't like to spend a lot of money on, are wreaths. And I'm gonna show you guys the easiest way and the kind of like less troublesome way to make a really full, juicy wreath for your front door. So all you're gonna need is some zip ties, and I found this garland at the thrift store for, I think it was just $5.99. So whenever I'm sharing projects with you guys, I always wanna think of a few things. The first thing I always think about is this cost effective? So for this project, for example, a nice full 22-inch wreath is gonna cost you at least $40, $50. So this cost me only $5.99 to make, which makes it all the worthwhile to try to share it with you guys. The other thing I think about is how much time is this gonna take? How much time does it take me? So if this takes me hours and hours and hours to do, also I'm probably not gonna share it because nobody has that kind of time right now. The last thing I think about is, would someone actually want to put this in their home? Because if I don't wanna put it in my home, there's probably a chance someone else doesn't want to do that either. The first step in this DIY is you want to make sure that your garland is long enough to wrap around the circumference of your wreath form. So if you have a short garland, you're going to size down on your wreath form, and vice versa. So you can always have a garland that's too long like this one. So I'm going to show you what I had to do in the end. And basically all you're going to do is secure that garland to your wreath form using zip ties. Like I said, I prefer the zip ties over any sort of like tacky adhesive because I just feel like it really does weather the storm. So that's definitely a tip I have learned with making wreaths along the way. Now, as you can see here, I have too much garland, which is definitely the situation you want to be in. So after I've gotten the wreath form very well secure and I've made sure that I have the best section of the garland wrapped around my wreath form, I'm just kind of now cutting off the end and then pressing everything outwards and seeing if there is any little pockets that could benefit from having a little bit more garland added to it. So I can see here right in that, right in the center of this frame that there's a little pocket there. So I'm gonna add and spread out a little bit of the greenery to make sure that it's covered. And this is how the wreath ended up turning out. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked today's video, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and hit the subscribe button because I post home decor and DIY content every Sunday. And I hope I see you guys next Sunday. Bye!